The title of today's episode is Discovering Good Light. Well, it's that time of the week again. Today is TK Friday. I love TK Fridays. Stay tuned. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. Well, it's TK Friday again. Can you believe it? These weeks just roll by so fast for me. I don't know about you. Well, thank you so much for joining me again today. I'm glad to have you with me. And by the way, I want to thank each and every one of you for your comments and questions, your words of encouragement. You know, it really helps me out, and I appreciate all the comments and questions because I believe we are a community here at TK Fridays. And by the way, if you don't yet have the TK8 plugin for Photoshop, or if you want to get some TK8 training videos, I'll leave my affiliate link in the description below. Just click on that link and use my promo code DK15 and you'll save 15% off everything on Tony Kuiper's web store. So remember that, it's DK15. Now that helps support my channel, and when you do that, it really helps me out, and I want to thank each and every one of you for supporting the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. Thank you so much. Now let's get into this. Now I am providing a PSD file so you can follow along with me. I think that's a great way of learning. I recommend that you watch the video first and then, pull out your iPad or just watch it alongside on your computer, however you do that, but follow along, and I think you'll learn a lot as you practice these techniques. Now, the image you download will already have my Lightroom adjustments on it. This is what the original image looks like right out of my camera. It's a Canon 40D. It's an older Canon camera, but it does a really nice job. Now, right now it looks kind of flat and not very attractive. After some Lightroom adjustments, it still looks kind of flat, but I didn't do a whole lot here. I ran a linear profile on it. I hit the auto button, tweaked my white and black point here, and then I always go into tone curve. And on this one, if you'll notice on my tone curve, my highlights, lights, darks, and shadows are all moving to the right, because my philosophy, at least for this image and a lot of different flower images, is I want them to be nice and happy and sunny and, just beautiful. I don't want like drab looking light. Like this light is not very attractive right now, but this is a start in Lightroom, and it's a good starting point. And then we're going to go right into Photoshop, and I'll show you what we do from there. But also on detail, I just have the standard default sharpening of 40. And I have no noise reduction because I've denoised it, and I've done that already for you on the PSD file in Photoshop. And I also always use lens corrections, remove chromatic aberrations, and enable profile corrections. And that's basically it. So not a lot done here in Lightroom because I save all the heavy lifting for Photoshop and the TK8 plugin for Photoshop. The next thing I would do is just right-click on the image and go to Edit In and click Edit in Photoshop 2022. But guess what? I'm already over there, and let's go there. Now, I'm going to start out right here and show you something. You see these flowers on the edge here? I don't find this very useful in the image right here, or this spent bud over here, or this little area of white over here. So let me show you something really cool here. And I know we all remove objects in Photoshop, but this is something that you can do. Grab your lasso tool, type L in your keyboard, that's the shortcut. Hold your shift key down and lasso around these different objects. Holding the shift key down lets you keep adding to your selection. So I'm just going to go ahead and add all of these in at one fell swoop, and this will already be removed for you on the PSD. But here's a little tip for you, and this is a good one. It's simple, but it's a good tip. Come over to the CX or combo panel and click right here, this red square with a white outline around it. Click on it, and this is your fill dialog. Now you can go under contents. Right now it's on content aware fill, which is what we want, but you have different ways of filling: foreground color, background color. You could use a color, but content aware fill, you can fill it with a pattern, but we're using content aware fill. Now watch what happens. Let me move this out of the way. I'm going to click OK, and just like that, give it a second, that is gone. Now if I click right here on the CX panel, we'll get rid of the marching ants, but that's how easy it was for me to clean up those objects. So remember that. You can grab a bunch of things at once and just hit that fill dialog and use content aware fill, and you are good to go. I went ahead and duplicated the background layer and sent that duplicated layer into Topaz Denoise AI and denoised this image here. Now I'm going to zoom way into the image. Okay, so this is after noise reduction. This is what it looks like before noise reduction. So you can see there's a ton of noise there, and that noise is totally totally gone. And it's also considerably sharper, by the way, I might add. Now, this next step is totally up to you whether you want to use it or not. Topaz Denoise AI is so good, it removes every bit of noise. Sometimes I just like to add a little bit of noise back in just the highlighted areas. And what I'll do is add a dark zero mask. Now, there is no dark zero mask. And what you do to create it, if you want it, is come up to the Luminosity Mask icon, click on it, and click on a Lights 2. And when you invert it by clicking this icon right here, it turns into a darks 0, okay? And then I just click this icon here, which applies it to that layer. And what that mask does, it just allows you to see a light amount of noise only in the highlights. I don't know if you can see it, but there's just a slight amount of noise in the highlights, none in the shadows whatsoever. But you can leave that step on or off. That is totally up to you. Now, I did not provide that mask in the PSD file. You can make it yourself, but I wanted to actually show you how to make it. Now, my next step is to come up to the Luminosity Mask icon, click on it, and get yourselves a MIDS 3 mask. Now, this mask is only for protecting you from clipping highlights and shadows. Now, this step is very important. Not so much the mask. However, the mask is important, but we're just going to output that to a color grading tool. And there's that MIDS 3 on there, which will protect us from clipping our highlights and shadows. Now, the reason it's very important on this particular image, because remember I told you at the beginning, I want to keep a nice, light, happy-looking flower image here. And this particular adjustment with the color grading tool is going to give that to me. So I'm going to do things a little different here. Instead of adding contrast, I'm going to kind of take some contrast away, but really lighten up this image here. And this is a most important key step on this flower image. I'm going to start out with the shadows. Now, on the shadows, I'm not going to touch the shadow slider, but I am going to take this black block in the color grading section and drag it up and warm up the shadows just a little bit. Now, let's take a look. Here's the before. Okay, so you see that. Now, here is the after. But you see how I added a little bit of warmth to the shadows. Again, before and after. Next, I'm going to go to the midtones. Now, I'm going to take the midtones and I'm going to drag them up to about here. Now, I want you to notice something. When you drag these adjustments, when you drag along here, you don't see anything happening. You only see something happen when you release your left mouse click. Okay? So here's the before and here's after, but see how much lighter it's getting? And then I'm going to go to highlights and just slightly not warm up the highlights, but slightly lighten the highlights just a little bit. And check it out. Here's the before overall and here's after, but you see the nice light happiness coming into this flower image. Very important, because one thing I do want to say especially when you're working with flowers, but this goes for any type of photography, and that is if we really want great image edits, we have to really craft and hone these images. And my philosophy is look for issues, look for problems, fix them. At the end of all your fixing comes a beautiful pot of gold, the end of the rainbow, which is a beautiful edit. Now, my next step is I want to give this background a bit of a softening. And remember last week, if you watched my last week's TK Friday, I did a reverse clarity. Tony Kuiper figured out how to do a reverse clarity, which gives you a nice softness to your image. And we're going to use that for the background here. But to do that, I need to make a selection. I'm going to select this flower, both of these flowers, and then I'll invert that selection. And I'll save that as a channel. Let me show you how to do that. What you want is your object selection tool, and you'll find it in your tools, your Photoshop tools. So click on your object selection tool and make sure you have it in the lasso mode, and also sample all layers. Make sure that's checked. Now I'm just going to draw a circle really quickly around this flower right here. And as you can see, it does a pretty good job of selecting it. And now I'm going to hold my shift key down and draw around this other flower here. Just like that, adding to that selection. And now I have both flowers selected, but there's a few issues which we're going to take care of now. Now, Shift will add to your selection, but if you hold your Alt or Option key down, it'll subtract from the selection. So just come in here and go like this and see how it subtracts that out. Any little areas like that, we can subtract it out. And if it messes up, hold your Shift key down and just fill that area back in just like that. But again, Option or Alt will subtract these little areas out like this. I'll go ahead and finish this up, but just go around and grab all these little areas. It's really quick, like right in here. We can fix that right up and right here. I don't want that in my selection. I actually don't want any of this flower in my selection. See how I can just clean that right up in a couple little areas here. But just clean them up, and I said I was going to stop, but I'm just going the whole way so you can actually see what the heck I'm doing. I'm going to add this in by holding the shift like right here and just circle around there. But you see how easy that is? Now, it's a pretty good selection, but we're going to be working on it some more. But let's go ahead and save it out. Let's come over to the CX or combo panel, and first we need to invert it, right? Because I want to work in the background, not the flower. So we're going to invert it by clicking this icon here. This inverts your selection, and now it's choosing the background only. And now we're going to click here and save that, and I'm going to call this background and click OK. And that saves it as a channel. Now, you see I have it saved twice here because I've did this edit once before. And by the way, to get rid of these channels, all you have to do is click on a channel and click the trash can, and that will delete the channel after you click yes, delete the channel background. Okay, so now I only have one background channel. Now, right now, we still have a selection. I don't want that, so let's deselect it. On the TK8 CX or combo panel, click this icon that removes the selection. The next step is to come to the TK actions and find the clarity action. Click on the clarity action, and we have to figure out a pixel radius. And I've experimented, and I found out that I liked like right around like 200%. I meant 200 pixels, anywhere around there. Let's go with 194 and click OK. All right, so that adds clarity. Now that's the opposite of what I want. So what we're going to do is we're on this clarity layer right here. If you come up to this icon on the CX or combo panel, click it, that will invert that. And now the whole image is entirely soft. Now, there's a very important button on the CX or combo panel, and it's this button right here. If you click on it, you'll see a list of different channels that you've saved, and you notice there's my background channel. So if I click on this, it'll apply it right to that layer. And as you can see, it's protected my flower. Now, if you look in like this area right in here, it looks a little wonky because it's a really good selection. And this is out of focus here. It's a little soft, but watch how I take care of that. It's really very easy. What I'd like to do is double click on the clarity mask, and it opens up your properties, and you'll notice you have two very important sliders in here. One is called density, and that's just how dense the mask is. Like right now you see a solid black flower. If I drag it to the left, you can see it's becoming gray, and now my flower is getting soft. So it's a really good fine-tuning adjustment, but the one I'm interested in is this feather adjustment. Now watch these edges over here. Let me zoom in so you can see. Watch these edges as I come and take this feather and I start to drag it to the right. See how that just softens and dissipates, and it becomes really nice. And I came to this 63.2 pixels, okay? Anywhere in there, honestly, like 58 up to 65 would work fine, actually. Now let me go ahead and zoom back out. But you see how that is now? But check this out. Let me shut the properties panel. Check the background out. Here is my before, and here is my after. But look how nice and smooth that gets, and it's really getting pretty, and I'm just saying I'm liking the direction. And now back to problem solver mode. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in, and the center of this flower right here, I think I can bring some detail out in it. Okay, so I'm going to come in a little bit more, and let's try a clarity action. Okay, so let's click on the TK actions and click on clarity. And we're greeted with this high pass dialog. And by the way, it uses a high pass filter for clarity. And anyway, 10 pixels. Now, 10 pixels is a good radius when you want to really sharpen things up. You could even go like lower than this, and you get your edges really sharp on different areas. Like, and I might even go right around here, like around 4.6 pixels, and click OK. Now let's take a look. Here is the before, and here's after. You see that, how that really gets really nice. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and zoom back out. Now right now it's adding clarity to the entire image. So I'm going to go and come to the CX panel or combo panel and click on this black mask icon and put a black high-dol mask on here. And then I'm going to get a paintbrush, a white brush. So I'm going to click on my white brush on the CX panel and see my brush is a nice big brush with a really soft edge. And I'm at 100% opacity and flow. I'm just going to come right here in the center. I'm not even going to use the luminosity mask. I'm going to click one time, and that's it. And then I can come around the edges like this and click a few times to make sure I got everything around there. And now we could take a look at our mask. Let's click this double arrow icon, and that's what my mask looks like, okay? Now check the center of the flower. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see. When I hit the before and after, it's only on the flower. Here's the before, and here's the after. Now I would like that a little stronger so I can double up in this adjustment. So if you come to this icon right here, click this, it'll duplicate that entire action, okay? You see that here is the before and here is the after. Now that might be a little too strong. So I'm going to take the opacity of the duplicated layer and I'm going to pull that opacity back. And I think I'm going to go back to around, right around like 66%, somewhere around there. Here's the before and here's the after. Now what I like to do, being that I doubled this up, let's put these in a group. So I'm going to hold my shift key down and click on the first clarity action I did. And then I'm going to click on the right side of this group icon. It'll put this in a white group, and we could just call this center flower clarity. Okay, and now we can see here is the before and here's the after, but it's just in a group and it tidies things up. Now what's next? Let me go ahead and fit this to screen by clicking this icon right here. That fits it to screen, and let's go a little smaller. I'm going to hit the minus button and take it in. Well, that might be too small. I'm just going to back it out a little bit more. Now we're going to have some fun. Now check this out. This is something we haven't used yet. I don't believe in the TK Friday video. Let me exile the color grading tool. You're going to find this area right here and click on it, and you'll see this is workflow extras. Now there's a really cool little feature to this, and this is called one color gradient. Now I'm going to click on this, and you'll notice I have this yellow circle right here in the center of my flower. That's not what I want, but it starts out in the center, and you'll notice a move tool comes up. Now that comes up when you click on that, and you can take this, think of it as like a spotlight. I can move it anywhere I want. But what I want to do is put a nice little glow up in this corner of the image, okay? Now right now this is in a soft light blend mode, but I'm going to change it to a screen blend mode. I'm just going to click OK. And now let's change the blend mode from soft light to screen, and you'll see the difference here. It looks like a nice sun over there. Now it's too strong, so what I can do is back off on the opacity. I'm going to take it back, and I think right around like 80%. Now, if you click on this again or double click it, you'll get that move tool again. Now you can just like move this around. You can also change its scale. This scale goes from 0, I believe, up to like 1,000. So if I drag this to the right, it'll make that, you see it getting bigger. And I thought it was somewhere around like 131 that I like. See how it's just spilling a little bit over onto the flower? And that excites me. I get this nice, remember I said I want a nice, sunny, beautiful summer day image. And look at this. It's adding a beautiful effect. Now, I went with a different color, so you can change this color. If you click right here and see right here, this little square here, I'm not going to get real deep here, but click on this. And you see where it says colors. Now, you can click on this, and a color picker comes up. Now, I have a color in mind, and I jotted down the actual number. Every color has a number. Did you know that? And I have a number, and it is FCE 35C. That was the color that I came up with that I like. So remember, you could put that same color in yours if you want to, and just click OK. And now I have that yellow color. And again, you can play with that opacity. If it's too strong, you want to back it off a little bit. And I think I might take it down to around a 72. So here's the before and here's the after. Sometimes adding a little glow in a flower image can be oh so beautiful, in my opinion anyway. After adding that nice sunny glow up in that upper left corner, I'm going to work on the center of this flower. I want to bring up these little yellow areas in the center of the flower, and I'm going to use a curves adjustment layer. I'm going to put it in the screen blend mode to lighten the entire image up, but I'm only thinking of the center of the flower here, right? So I'm going to hide that adjustment by clicking on this black mask icon on the CX or combo panel. That hides my adjustment. Let's get rid of this properties panel as well. Now we need to make a mask to cover the center of this flower here. Now I only want to target these little, I don't know what you call these little guys here, these little yellow areas. I don't want the dark areas, just these light yellow areas. That's why I need a mask. Let's go ahead and make a mask. Now we're looking at yellow, so what do you think? A color mask, huh? I think so too. Let's find one of these yellows in here, like right here, click OK. And see, yeah, we're getting a very nice mask here. So let's go ahead and lighten up that selection a little bit. And let's see if we can further tweak it here. make sure we're only hitting those yellow areas. Okay, let me bring this to the right. Now let me bring it into the left. Even more, like right there. And we can even lighten it up a little bit more, maybe right like that. Now let's output it to a black mask. We're going to be painting through a selection with a white brush. Now here's what I want you to do, and I still have that same radius size of my brush, and I'm still at 100% opacity. All I want you to do here is with our mouse, we're going to click one time. See how it lightens up? Now remember, it's going through a mask, so click a second time. Lightens up a little more. Now let's click a third time. Lightens up more. Let's click a fourth time. It gets even lighter. I could keep clicking here if I want to, but let's take a look at our mask right here. If I click the double arrow icon, look at that beautiful mask, right? Isn't that cool with just a mouse click? Like 3 or 4, I believe it was. Click this again, we go back. Now let's take a look. Here is the before, and here's the after. But isn't that nice, just the way that lightens it up? And if you feel you went too strong, just take your opacity and ease it back just a little bit. And maybe I'll go back to like 85. Here is the before, and here's the after. The next thing I want to do is give this area just a little bit more saturation. Now, right now I still have a selection. I'm going to go ahead and deselect my selection, because what I want to do is click on this icon, which will give me a hue saturation layer, but I want to clip it to the layer below. And to do that, just find this paper clip icon right here. Click on the paper clip. And then we can take the saturation, and when I adjust the saturation up, it's only going to target those little yellow areas. Isn't that cool, right? This is the power of the TK8 plugin for Photoshop right there. Okay, so here is the before, and here is the after. So it brings up a little color, making me a lot happier, sunny and warm, glowing, beautiful. Now I'm still looking for problems. Let me get rid of the properties panel, and I want you to note, see this little black area inside of the flower here? Since I lightened everything up, my eye is going to the black hole here. I want to fill that in. So I think I'm going to fill it in with a clone stamp tool. And to do that, I'm going to get a blank pixel layer. And I'm just going to click this icon right here. It creates a new blank pixel layer. I'm going to get a stamp tool or a clone stamp. You can click right here, or you could just type your S key. And make your diameter about the size of that hole there. Now I have a nice soft edge on that. Okay, and what I want to do is hold my Option or Alt key down and find an area that would fill in nicely. And I think this area right here. So I'm going to Option or Alt click right here. And then I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to click once, twice. And that looks pretty good. So 2 clicks and I'm good to go. Here is the before and here's the after, but it just fills that in and I'm happier now. By the way, and I forgot to mention, make sure you have under sample, make sure you have all layers set. Now there's different options in this drop down, like current layer, current and below, but have all layers set, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to fill that in. So you have to have all layers set. That's important, especially when you're working on a blank layer like this. Okay, now back to problem solving. This center flower, I think it needs to be lightened up a little more, and this flower needs to be darkened. So I'm going to tackle this first. Okay, so I'm going to lighten this one up first. To do that, I'm just going to get a curves adjustment layer. So just click on the curves adjustment, and we can close the properties panel, because all I want is, you probably can guess it by now, right? You're saying, Dave, I know exactly what you're going to do, and you are right. Screen blend mode. And then you're saying, Dave, you're going to hide it next, right? Yes, you are right. I'm hiding it next. Okay, now I got to make a mask for this flower, but I don't want to get the center area. I just want the petals themselves. Now this is light. I could try a zone mask, but let's try a luminosity mask. Let's click on luminosity mask and let's try, that's 1. Let's try lights 2. That's isolating the petals more. Let's try lights 3. And that's even better. Now I think we could do better, and let's come to the levels adjustment. And let's see if we can tweak it. I'm going to drag my highlight slider to the left a little bit. I'm going to drag this mid-tone slider to the left to lighten that up. And then I'm going to drag the shadow slider in to darken the areas around it to give me some nice separation somewhere around there. Let me see if I can bring my highlights up anymore. I want to maintain some texture in here, and I think I'm pretty good. Let's try my mid over a little bit more, and I think that's good right there. I'm happy with that. I can close this properties panel. Now I want to subtract out this area in here, and these are yellow, so let's try a mask calculation. Let's click on the mask calculator. Let's click minus, because I want to subtract out these yellow areas. Let's X out of here. Let's grab a color mask, and let's click on some of the yellow area, like right in here. Click OK. And let's lighten up that selection a good bit. Maybe something like that should do it. Right around there. And let's even refine it a little bit. Let me darken around it a little bit by going like this and lightening up the center a little bit, maybe darkening up, maybe right there. Let's let's get rid of the properties panel and click equals. And now let's see. Yeah, that does a pretty good job. Now it's missed a little area right in here, but not a big deal. I can grab this black brush, click the black brush, make my brush a little bit smaller and check it out. Let's just paint that off of there. Now let's go ahead and output it as a black mask, painting with a white brush through a selection at 100% opacity and a nice soft edge brush. I'm just going to go ahead and paint that on there at 100%. Now it's probably going to be too strong, but I just want to hit all these petals here like so. If I overpaint this petal, I can come back and fix it. But let me just get all these real quick in here. And again, it's going to be too strong, but we'll fix it. And I'm just going fast here. I haven't lifted my brush. Okay, so that's good. Now, as I said, I think that opacity is too strong. So let's take the opacity. I'm going to take it the whole way off. And let's just build it up slowly and stop where we think it looks natural. And I'm thinking like right, I don't know, maybe right around there, like around 75, 76%. Here is the before and here is the after. Now, I've overpainted in this area right here. So I'm still in the mask. I'm going to get a black brush and make my brush smaller and just paint that little mess up off right there. No big deal, right? Just fix it right up and that is it. And now the next thing I want to do is darken this flower down just a little wee bit. And to do that, I'm going to get an object selection tool and I'm just going to lasso around this flower just like this and it should find it. And it does. And now what I can do is get a color grading tool. Now I already have a selection, right? So if I click on this color grading tool and click the plus, it adds that selection to it. And all I want to do is I want to darken it down. I'm going to start with the highlights. Take the highlights and start to pull those back to the left. You know, just to darken down the highlights a little bit. Maybe right like that. I just want this to be a little shade darker than this flower here. And we're almost done, but I have one more very important step. Let's go to the TK actions. Click on your TK actions and find soft pop. Let's click on soft pop. Give it a second to run and look at that. Here is the before soft pop and here's the after. It just gives it a nice little hit of color, a nice little bit of pop. Everything remains still very soft and I really like it, but that is soft pop. Again, here is the before and here's the after. And if you think it's too strong, you can either take this fill and drag it back just a tiny wee bit. And I may go back to like around a 12. Here is the before and here's the after. You can also adjust the opacity back if you need to, but the fill will give you more of a stronger effect. Okay, so here again is the before and here's the after. And I like it. Now what I always like to do is type my F key twice. This is one F key type. Here's the second one. Now we can look at this on a screen without a bunch of menus in our way. But check it out. Isn't that really cool? Now here's the overall before. Let me show you. Here's the before. So this is what the image originally looked like. Okay, and now here is the after. But isn't that a great transformation? It's nice and light and open and sunny, and it's very happy, and I think it turned out great. Well, there it is, everyone. Today we discovered good light all by using the TK8 plugin for Photoshop. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial today. If you did, please give it a like and share it with your friends, and if you're not yet a subscriber to my channel, please subscribe. Click that bell notification icon. That way, every time I upload a new tutorial, you'll be notified about it. Well, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today in the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly, and I'll see you all right here next time. But until then, happy editing.